We continue to cover every single team in the NHL, top to bottom, and we arrive on Thursday's episode with the Nashville Predators. Top 5 fantasy targets. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, my fantasy fanatics? Welcome back inside the lab to your daily 30-minute source for all of the off-season fantasy hockey news and betting breakdowns that you need. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele, Rodin. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip, here, holding it down with y'all every single day, and appreciate y'all for making us your first listen every single day. We would be nowhere without the everydayers continuing to show us that love throughout the summer. We are here breaking down every single team, Steele, bottom to the top, 32 squads. And we arrive in Nashville today. But before we get there, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, where right now, new customers to FanDuel get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. I'm excited about this one, Steele, because I think Nashville, unlike San Jose and Chicago, might be able to make some real noise this year. And I'm intrigued to hear your take on this. We know it didn't go right this year, but how are you looking at this top 5 fantasy target situation and how they are going to look headed into next year? Because I really don't see too much turnover at the key points on this roster. But over to you, because I've got some angles to talk about there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly interesting. I think once you get outside the top 6 forward group, there's a lot of room to improve.
I agree.
Again, this organization has a tremendous amount of prospects in their wheelhouse, a tremendous amount of draft picks in their wheelhouse. So
Yes.
They have a lot of opportunity to make some trades and kind of start filling in those gaps in the bottom 6. Again, a lot of young prospects right now for the Nashville Predators who could be getting some chances like Fedor Svechkov, Matthew Wood, Zachary Lahire as well. So there's a few guys in the bottom 6. Again, it's nothing that's standing out right now. When you get into the top 6, it's really good, actually, in my opinion. And as bad as they were offensively last year, a bottom 2 team in goals for,
really
a
bad,
bottom 6 team in goals against. I think the blue line is what's really stood out to me with this Nashville team. They went from 4 or 5 years ago probably having the best D core in the entire National Hockey League to really just having Roman Josi now. Like, you look at their blue line and it's atrocious. It's not a Stanley Cup contending team. It's not a talented blue line by any means whatsoever.
It's not pretty.
When Roman Josi got hurt in February, missing the last 25 games of the regular season, it was an abomination. Brady Shea was just left out there to just rot pretty much. So
yeah,
they need to figure some things out on the blue line. We're gonna get to I'm gonna get to Roman Josi eventually, but at number 5, I have Jonathan Marchessault as the 5th target on this.
I have
list.
A feeling, not to cut you off, I have a feeling we have the exact same list today. I got that vibe.
Yeah, we're gonna have the same 5 players. I know that. So at number 5, I have Jonathan Marchessault. So again, disappointing season. Only 21 goals, 56 points in 78 games. The fact that the year prior had 69 points with Vegas, obviously losing, not wanting, or they didn't re-sign him. He signs with Nashville. 77 hits, 25 blocks, and 206 shots. The peripherals were down. The shot total was down. The points were down for this guy. But I think this is still a player and this is still a team, regardless of how bad they were, that brings a lot of fantasy value. So a guy like Jonathan Marchessault, who was ranked in the preseason at 58 and then finishing at 101, obviously a down year, but still a lot of value with a player who is who has been a 35 plus goal scorer in this league. So a guy like Jonathan Marchessault, I'm happy to take him somewhere in that 8th round, 9th round, especially because I do think this team is going to be a lot better than what we saw last year.
I think that's the main vibe here, Steele. And I don't want to get overly hyped up about a team that clearly was the biggest disappointment, I would say. We were all very ready to put the playoff moniker on this club, and they didn't gel. And they went multiple games and almost seemingly weeks without generating quality scoring chances with regularity. They really struggled in the offensive zone. And then when you talk about a weak blue line and an injury to arguably your most important player and your leader in Roman Josi, there's no wonder that this team then struggled. However, interestingly enough, with Marchessault, I think maybe we should have expected exactly what you said, though, for him to fall into the range of where his caliber of play is, for me anyway. 25 to 30 goals. Like, yeah, in 2017, he had 30 in Florida, but then 27, 25, 22, 30, 28. 42 was the outlier. So for anyone who to really expect that reproduction, I think that was a mistake. However, still value. And I'm totally buying into your angle of this team being better next season. The top 6 forward group. Think of the bones of the team. Goaltender, good. Number 1 D-man, good. Number 1 centerman in Ryan O'Reilly, very solid all around. He makes honorable mention for me. He doesn't make the top 5. Brady Shea also comes in at honorable mention. Marchessault comes in at 5. And before I get to 4, just wanted to bring this up to kind of highlight what you were saying. This Nashville team has actually about, I'm trying to look at this cap space that they're working with here, Steele. They got about $8 million in cap space. Apparently, I think they are going to make some moves. 17 million, that's my bad. And you mentioned the draft capital. How about 4 first-round picks and 3 second-rounders over the next 2 drafts? This team might be very active. We'll see, though. What I will say, at number 4, quickly, this is going to be Stammer's spot for me because I know Juuse Saros might be here for you, but I really do love that goaltender, and I think along with Josi, you're going to see a big improvement. So Stammer comes in at 4. I want to hear your take on this. Obviously, I think of any of the players that were big names that moved in the offseason that you and I were very wary of because you know this man wanted to go back to Tampa. This one almost made sense. However, now that he's settled in, Steele, you might be able to get this guy at a very good round price because I think a lot of people are sleeping on a guy who can still fire that biscuit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would use the word sleeping because his ADP was 24.1. He was getting drafted in the late second round. So they were reaching on Steven Stamkos. You know, again, like you said, we were all excited about what this organization was going to do this past season, bringing in all these top tier guys, and it didn't work out that way. So a lot of fantasy owners out there were reaching on Steven Stamkos. He still finished very well. Yahoo actually had him ranked in the preseason at 185. He finished the season at 80th on the year as well. So he definitely improved from his preseason rank. 14 power play goals, had 27 goals on the season in full 82 games, 53 points, 66 hits, 46 blocks, 174 shots, which is pretty low for a guy like Steven Stamkos, who likes to shoot the puck. So, yeah, for me, he's definitely not a second-round draft pick anymore. He's on the older side. He's 34 years old, soon to be 35 years old. Again, I still think he has that goal-scoring caliber, but the speed isn't there anymore. The physicality isn't there anymore. I don't want to compare him to John Tavares, but they're pretty much at the same stage of their career. I think John Tavares still brings a lot more value than Stammer right now.
Interesting.
But again, finishing 80th on Yahoo in the rankings at the end of the season, lots of value there for what he can bring on the power play. That's the huge cherry on top right now with a guy like Steven Stamkos. 80th, I'm very comfortable with putting him somewhere in that 7th round.
18th ranked power play for the Nashville Predators this season, clicking at a 21.9 proficiency. If you think that this team's going to get better, you know that those numbers get better, and that's going to fill out some categories for you. Make sure you guys keep it tapped to the pod. We got you covered all summer long. We'll roll into the rest of the clubs every single day, Monday through Friday, and a few Saturday specials until that cup gets lifted. We'll get to the rest of today's top 5 Nashville Predators targets right after we show some love to our friends from FanDuel Sportsbook, which today's episode is brought to you by. The NBA playoffs, they are in full swing. Shout out the OKC Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Hamilton, Ontario, delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action than with FanDuel. That makes it easy to stay in on the game before tip, live, player props, trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have never had more ways to win big than right now. Steele and I have been loving those same-game parlays, player props, whatever it is, you can find it on FanDuel, easy and secure. New to FanDuel, perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it hits, 200 bones in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button for your boys here, Filip, Livingstone, and Steele, Rodin. We appreciate you out there. We love you out there. Thank you so much for holding us down. Nashville Predators, top 5 targets. You know who the top 5 are, but we don't know which in what order. At number 3, though, it's Juuse Saros. For me, Juuse Saros comes. So we definitely do.
We have the same. Yeah, that's okay.
We have the same list.
That's okay. I like that. That means it's clear. Get the pen and paper out. These are the 5 targets on this team, no doubt.
I like it because we were disagreeing yesterday with Chicago.
True.
Now we're on the same page with Nashville Predators. That's why I love doing this with you. But Juuse Saros comes in at number 3 for me, and you know how I felt about him for the last 4 years. I've really loved his game. I love him as a fantasy hockey goaltender, but there's no beating around the bush here. It's been a rough go for Juuse Saros the last couple of seasons, especially this past year, actually. 895 save percentage, a 2.98 goals against average, 20 wins, 31 losses. Again, it goes to what I was saying earlier in this episode about how bad the blue line is in front of Juuse Saros.
I agree.
So
totally agree.
For me, he still comes in at number 3 on this list. His ADP last year was 42.6, so he was getting drafted in the 4th round. I think that's going to dip a little bit. This might be a goaltender that you could maybe falls into the 0G strategy where he slides a little bit more. I don't know. I wouldn't wait past the 6th or 7th round to take Juuse Saros. If he's there in the 6th round, I'm most likely jumping on it because I do like this goaltender a lot. And if what we believe now, after 1 year with this trial run and again, potentially with Barry Trotz changing some things, I think Juuse Saros will bounce back.
I was thinking about this a lot, Steele, because in Barry Trotz, I trust anyway. I don't want to say we, I don't want to throw you in this, but this is a guy who's clearly been able, this guy knows hockey. And maybe this is a clear indication of also someone needing a little bit of time to get over into those GM ropes. And I don't think he's going to need very long. And he's replacing also, you and I like to come on here and give some love to our favorite coaches, you know, Paul Maurice, John Cooper. We like our front office men, Billy G, Zito, Jim Nill, all of these guys that game respect game here. Let's be honest. These guys deserve the credit because they know what they're talking about with hockey. And I would say Barry Trotz, even with a bad year, give this man some time. So with all of this draft capital that David Poile has so nicely laid out for this man, you know he's going to be augmenting this roster. And I would say that then leaves, if we're going to continue to buy into that narrative, Juuse Saros to me, and you know I hate sometimes tipping my hand too much. I think given what happened in Nashville last year, Steele, he makes a prototypical great goaltending ad this year for some people in the, more general circles might be overlooking him. A couple of numbers for you because he's also at number 3 for me before we get to Josi and Filip Forsberg, obviously. Take this in. Before last year, it was 3 straight years of him leading the NHL in games played. 2 of those years, Steele, he faced the most shots on net. And then this year, he has the most losses. So this guy's been through the ringer a little bit in Nashville. Like you said, indicative of the blue line. If Barry Trotz doesn't address the blue line, I'd be shocked. So if we're going to read into all of these could and ifs, improved brew line, better formality up front, more value for Juuse Saros. So don't sleep on him. Number 2, Roman Josi. Again, the injury, the poor season. I think there's so much value. Let's not forget how good this guy is. Just because the team slacked and he was injured does not mean for 1 second this guy, is he going to return to, what was it a couple of years ago there, Steele? He had 85, 96. No, but I say 75. Very comfortable projecting a 70-point season from a guy with this much talent.
Yeah, it's possible. And the one thing that concerns me, though, is, again, the aging core with all these guys. Roman Josi, Marchessault, Stamkos, they're all 34, 35. Even Filip Forsberg is 30, 31. So this aging core, that worries me a little bit. Honestly, the injury is very concerning to me as well, because when it happened, it was kind of just like swept under the rug, in my opinion. Like, there wasn't a lot of news on what was going on with Roman Josi, exactly what the injury was, how is it going to affect him? Now we learn that it was a concussion from guess who, Sam Bennett, in February.
Good point.
That guy loves throwing the elbows out.
Big greasy
player, so big greasy. But yeah, I mean, he still comes in at number 2 for me, but I'm a little bit worried. But
I like it.
Again, those 2 seasons that you said, those are outliers. He's been for the most part, perennial 60, 65-point player every single season. I can see a 75-point year on the high end potentially. That's as far as I'm willing to go. Sure. But still, the hits, the blocks, the shots on net, the power play points, the amount of time on ice he gets, it all just adds to value. It should return to peak. It should return to exactly what he's been getting throughout his entire career. So Roman Josi at number 2, and of course, Filip Forsberg at the number 1 position. We can talk a little bit more in depth after the break, but he has to come in at number 1. And he also, for me, he has to be a second-round draft pick at this point. And like the fact that he does fall a little bit is surprising to me. And I understand maybe because it's with the Nashville Predators and a bad year with them, obviously this last year, but 76 points in 82 games this past year. I think he's honestly one of the most talented players in the National Hockey League, the way he's able to control the puck in the offensive zone. His skill ability is insane to me. And in the last 3 seasons, the last 4 seasons, he had 42 goals in 69 games. Then he had 19 and 50, which was a down year. Then he had 48 and 82, and then 31 and 82. So he's been, for the last 2 years, really, really healthy. 76 points, followed up by 94 points. I think this guy is a 80 to 85 point player, and that's if everything's obviously. That's if everything's not going well for Nashville. He just did that this year with one of the most disappointing seasons of his career. But if they're going Roman Josi, Stamkos, Marchessault, I think he can get back to 90 points like he did in 2023. So let's talk about it after the break. That's my take on Filip Forsberg. I think he's a second-round pick, but I'm intrigued to see how you feel about Filip Forsberg and where you would draft him going into next year. All of that and more coming up next after the break. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, making it your first listen every single day. Your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. We appreciate you out there. We love you out there. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave that 5-star review. It really does mean the world to us. It warms our hearts. We appreciate it. Flip, over to you, though, because I mean, I love this guy. I love Filip Forsberg just as much as I love Roman Josi and Juuse Saros. But the way, to me, from when I watch him, and even him just watching some of the highlights with Sweden at the World
that play was insane.
I mean, again, that's just one of that's the tip of the iceberg there. There's so much under the water that gets kind of like forgotten about because maybe of where he plays, who he's playing with. But to me, he's one of the most skilled guys in the NHL.
I guess this is just one of those angles that what you're saying is very on point, very well said. I'm not chirping you. This is just more of like a personal preference thing. And I guess my only angle here that I can make myself sound like I know what I'm talking about a little bit is, for me, his draft spot. And just a little food for thought. I know yesterday I was talking a little bit about where guys went in our casual league. I got our competitive league draft up, by the way. Shout out to Blake from Apples and Ginos for taking home the top prize in that one. Filip Forsberg went 14th overall. We had 16 GMs, so he was a first-round draft pick. However, it does fit your mold in terms of most leagues, don't have 16 GMs, and he falls into that second round. So, again, I don't think that's crazy. For me, I would wait on him, only dependent on the format. Banger leagues, yes, because he does bring that physicality. He loves to mix it up. Point leagues, I would hold slightly. And my only disagreement here is because I just don't love this player. And that's not a right thing to say, because what you're describing is on point. And when you look at his numbers too, the progression is what you want to see to kind of bank on. Early in the career, 60 points, 58 points, 64, and then boom, turns 27, 84, 94, 76. Last year, 155 hits, 151. He's at number one for me too, most definitely. I guess when you said second round, I was like, no, that's no way. That's too high. It really isn't. He's that good. And if we're buying into all the angles that we just described with this team improving, then why not make him another very good draft pick at the top of most drafts?
Look, he had an ADP. He had an ADP of 31.6, so he was getting drafted in the early third round.
That's where I would put him personally. Yeah. But you're not wrong to take him higher. That's
completely fair. His preseason ranking on Yahoo, they projected him at 24. He finished the season at 16. So in our league, he was a first round draft pick, the last pick of the first round. But again, they're very close, both where his actual ADP was, where he finished at the end of the regular season, where I would project him, where you would project him. It's within one round. It's within half a round potentially. Baby. We're splitting hairs here, but I do think even if you can get him in the second round, maybe a late second round pick, just the goal scoring ability, the offensive skill set that this player has, to me, it really jumps off the page. And the fact that he can go out and still put up 151 hits, he can put up 30 power play points in a season. It just continues to add in why he's such a skilled player and why I love having him on my fantasy hockey team.
Can't disagree, mate. I'm already fired up to I just looked at some of my draft picks there. Oh, boy, things got ugly for me. I had Miro Heiskanen and Brock Faber drafted. That was not pretty this year. Maybe we'll bounce back next year, Steele, because if someone else on another fantasy hockey podcast come into our league and takes more money from us, I'm ready to throw hands, even though I do like Blake.
Hey, maybe next time listen to me on Miro Heiskanen.
I'm listening. Steele, I'm old and I'm stubborn. Look, it's shutout. It's Gemini season, baby. It's our time, and let's get after it.
It is Gemini season. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, please check out the Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. From your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin, we wish you good luck with your bets tonight.
Always.
We wish you good luck with your favorite team still in the postseason, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.